And good afternoon. It's Tuesday afternoon. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as on some podcast platforms, some of the major ones, to be honest. We're on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. We're everywhere, anywhere you can find us. So whatever time zone you're in, sit back, relax, enjoy the next 45 minutes of talking about gambling and wagering on sports as far as that's concerned. And of course, welcome to the show. We really appreciate you listening to the show, definitely. Anyway, we had some things to talk about today. As usual, we will definitely go over things that happened yesterday as far as betting was concerned in the world of sports. And then we're also going to take a look at a couple of states who've finally signed on board to become gambling states as well. Maryland and Arizona, they legalized their sports betting. Yes, sir. Yes, a huge step forward in that push to legalize the entire United States of America. First, we saw Maryland pass a sports betting bill that will allow 30 retail licenses and up to 60 online betting licenses. They're becoming one of the most bettor-friendly states to legalize wagering since PASPA, which was overturned back in 2018. Maryland voters originally passed a ballot initiative to legalize sports betting in 2020, and yesterday, the Maryland Senate voted 47-0 in favor of an amended bill, which was then approved overwhelmingly by the House, 112-16, with one abstention. And the bill now heads to Governor Larry Hogan's desk, who is definitely expected to sign it into law in the coming days. And if that wasn't enough, Arizona lawmakers also passed a legal sporting bill on Monday as well. The bill allows both retail and online betting, including 20 licenses overall. The bill passed 23-6 in the Senate after passing 48-12 in the House. Governor Doug Ducey, he's expected to sign the bill into law by the end of the week. The bill also legalizes daily fantasy sports as well. Now, in both Maryland and Arizona, the goal is to have legalized sports betting up and running in time for week 1 of the NFL season coming up this fall. And why not? That's the biggest betting situation that goes on for the entire year. The only thing that comes anywhere close to it, but only lasts for a month or so, is, of course, March Madness. But until then, the NFL is king. A lot of money comes out in that time period. So, both states expected to follow in-person retail sports books inside, okay, or next to professional sports stadiums. They could be right next to stadiums. They're not going to ban them or anything of that nature. Maryland is the 19th most populous state in the country. You know, that little state has 6.1 million people. Arizona ranks 14th with 7.4 million people. But now it's Tuesday, and Tuesday's another day. So that's what's happening there. At one point in time, we're hoping that every state in the United States does finally legalize sports betting, and then everyone will have an opportunity to cast their ballots for whatever teams and games that they like to play. So that's the story there. Maryland, Arizona, into the fold as we speak. Also, we're going to be talking about the futures bets. Yesterday, we ran out of time. We wanted to talk about college basketball futures, especially as they pertain to March Madness, which is the big headline edition as far as college basketball is concerned. And also, we're going to take a look at some NFL futures. I want to take a look and see how things have been going. I mean, there's been a lot of turmoil, a lot of chaos going on, which quarterback is going where. Some of them have finally settled in. How many quarterbacks will be chosen in the first round? Those are little things that are going to start coming to the head right now. So we're going to take a little look into that and just give you an idea as to how those things are going, and perhaps some thoughts and ideas on how you might want to participate in them as well. But first of all, as always, let's take a look at what happened yesterday as far as betting on sports is concerned. In the National Hockey League, the underdogs went 4-3 with upsets by the Senators, the Canadiens, the Red Wings, and the Ducks. Underdogs 4-3. The overs went 3-2-2. You had pushes on the 1-2 of the games, and the unders still lead 314 to 302, which is right at 51% for the season. Also in hockey, we have what we call first period overs. It's almost like betting the first half of a football game. They went 4-3 yesterday, but the first period unders, they're still ahead in the game at 52%. So that's the NHL. Meanwhile, in the NBA, there, the dogs were a little quieter. The favorites went 6-2 straight up, 5-3 against the spread, but there were some upsets. The Wizards were a 10.5-point dog against the Jazz. The Warriors a 5.5-point dog against the Nuggets, as Stephen Curry scored 53 points in that particular game. Plus the Rockets, 12-point dogs against the Suns, and they covered even though the Rockets did lose that particular game. Now, as far as favorites and dogs go in the NBA, the favorites lead 397 to 386. The over-under split yesterday at 4-4, and the overs still lead 403 to 394. Meanwhile, over in Major League Baseball, the favorites did very well as well. 7-3 with the Reds and the Giants, of course, closing as a pick'em. And the only upsets were by the Marlins, who were a plus 122 at the money line against the Braves. The Nationals a plus 128 against the Cardinals. And the biggest was by the Tigers. They were at 215, plus 215 on the money line against the Astros. The favorites still lead 75 to 63 straight up. Of course, there were 5 pick'ems during that time period as well. The unders went 7-4, and the unders still lead 74 to 66. So that's the story in baseball, NBA, and in hockey for yesterday. Kind of a little rundown for you so that you get an idea as to how well the favorites are doing or how the dogs are doing, depending on which direction you'd like to go. Of course, if you've been listening to this show, you know here we're primarily contrarians. We like to bet against the public. And now that you got 2 more states coming in, you got all these millions of people coming in, maybe betting for the very first time ever in their lives. They're going to test it out. They're going to see, maybe once a month and maybe twice a month, they'll place a bet somewhere where they think they may like a game or two, primarily when it comes to the NFL season. Well, what that usually means is if they follow suit like other average recreational bettors have done in the past, they're going to leaning towards favorites. They're going to be leaning towards home teams, okay? Things of that nature, teams with big stars playing for them. And of course, that means inflated prices as far as the numbers are concerned. And for us contrarians, that's like music to our ears. So anyway, that's the story there. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to take a quick look at, first of all, I think we should get this college basketball futures thing out of the way, just in case we run out of time again. We promised to do it today, so we're going to do it right after the break. We'll get that done and on its way, and then we'll talk about the 2 games we have on tap for today in Major League Baseball. So let's get back. We'll be back into the sports wagering zone in 1 minute. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo, coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, also on most of your major podcast platforms as well, on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, just to name a few. There are most of them. I could spend a whole half hour talking about all of them, but they're everywhere. Most of the major platforms carry the show. So let's take a minute now, and we wanted to talk about this yesterday. We ran out of time. It has to do with taking advantage of the early betting market as far as March Madness is concerned. Yeah, March Madness in 2022. Now you got to start looking at that. That's when you start getting your best lines. If you're thinking of betting on futures, okay, just keep in mind, you want to get in at a certain point so that you get the best line possible, okay? It's time to play that transition game. It's kind of moving seamlessly from the end of 2021 in college basketball into that 21-22 kind of idea. The futures market is coming up, and it's now open for business. Future market, open for business. Big sign out there today. Now, before laying any money down for 2022, let's kind of look at this off season by trying to determine how you're going to play this ever expanding futures market. And it grows exponentially. There's no doubt about it. There are simple ways to do so. And personally, I'm a believer in creating a dynamic portfolio that includes tickets on different teams, making multiple trips to the window throughout the season to take advantage of these varying odds as they'll be going back and forth coming to the season. Now, having more than a couple of teams in the pocket means there's going to be plenty of losers that eat into potential profits, but it also creates a lot of flexibility, allows you to hedge, and at least you have the option of an early cash out as well. So here's how you can take advantage of this early college basketball market. First of all, you have to wait for the transfer dust to settle. By that I mean, students are transferring throughout the summer. They're leaving the colleges that they're at. They're unhappy with the situation. They're moving to other colleges. So with any college basketball futures payout, literally it's just about 1 year away by the time you're going to collect any money. You have to be ultra conservative when you're making any futures plays at this point in time. Because remember, once you make that bet, it's going to lay there. It's not going to be done until sometime in April. That's when you're going to collect the money. But the opposite side of that is the fact that the odds that you can get at this point in time are truly fantastic and phenomenal, especially if it all comes in for you, okay? Because you don't have to lay out as much money. So like I said, if you're a $50 bettor, you might want to put $10 on a future game. You never know, right? Consider this the primarily window shopping season. In other words, you're looking around. So that's the case when there are so many players going into that transfer situation or leaving college basketball to go to the pros. Now, all the roster volatility that you get from the power conferences down to the low majors creates an extra layer of definite uncertainty, and especially when it comes to when you're trying to project what's going to happen next season. So the first thing you need to do, wait till all that settles down. Let's see where they transfer to. Who is it that's transferring? Who's leaving and going on to the NBA? So for now, you want to kind of stay in that middle lane, okay? When you're ready to look over the futures board and you're thinking about making a play, your attention should go right to the middle and down from there. From the middle on down. So early in this off season, bypass all the short odds, all the ones at the top. Those are the ones that have the lowest point value. And it comes from zeroing in on the teams that bookmakers have initially underestimated. Okay, they're not sure themselves. They're going along, they're thinking about it, and they're saying, well, these are our top ones, and these other ones we're not too sure about, so we're going to raise the numbers on them, okay? One is in the Big Ten, and likely a result of the conference's abysmal March showing. I mean, the Big Ten was absolutely, they weren't even there, to be perfectly honest. It was the Pac 10, Pac 12 that really did very well this past year. Maryland at 25-1 is worthy of a proactive investment right now, because right now this looks like a real legitimate top team, top 10. Okay, 25-1. Those are the odds on them right now. Syracuse is at 35-1 because Boheim's back. Not only is the coach back, but his son is coming back, which means that Jim will have his team peaking in March, and Buddy will be in full launch mode by the time the situation comes around. So will his backcourt shooting mate, Joe Girard, he's going to be back as well. So with Syracuse being at 35-1, you got Coach Boeheim, who's really one of the finest coaches in basketball. You got his son coming back who scores just whenever he wants to, okay? And you also have Joe Girard, who is a good scorer as well, coming back. Might not be a bad idea to look at Syracuse at 35-1. Now at 50-1, look a little higher, you got St. Bonaventure's. They'll look to play the role of Obi Toppin's Dayton squad, as they did back in 2020 before the tournament was canceled. That is to emerge from the mid-major Atlantic 10 and be high, if not hot, the top-seeded team in that Atlantic 10. The Bonnies have the chance to really be that good, and at 50-1, are worth to take a look at. And then there's Indiana at 35-1. They have perhaps the best chance to be the 2022 Futures Lottery ticket as we talk about them. Their long odds have a lot to do with that uncertainty of their first-year head coach, Mike Woodson, coming back to Bloomington. So people are going to look at it and say, first year, so they're going to kind of fade away from Indiana in that respect. But the roster with Tracy Jackson Davis, and there's a transfer from Pittsburgh, Xavier Johnson. He looks pretty good as well. There's an odds discrepancy like this, and it looks that way, and you should pay attention to it. Indiana at 35-1. And then, of course, you want to run it back, because the team with the shortest odds starting in the offseason as the favorite is the same squad that had that honor all of last year, and that's Gonzaga at 6-1. They edge out Michigan at 8-1 for the current odds leader. Gonzaga's number 1, Michigan number 2, 6-1, 8-1. The Zags will lose Corey Kispert. They'll lose Joel Ayayi, and most likely Jalen Suggs as well, because they're going into the NBA draft. Now, there's a good chance that Drew Timme will be there, and so will Andrew Nembhard. And he's going to come back for another run at that national championship. So that's someone you might want to look at from a more favorable standpoint. Now, the rest of BetMGM's top 5 favorites are Baylor, who won it this past year, 12-1. Duke's at 12-1, even though they weren't even in the tournament. Florida State at 12-1 as well. So find room in that futures portfolio of yours for at least one of these teams before the winter comes and the numbers start dropping, depending on how well each team actually performs. This is the time to start looking at the futures. This is when you're going to be getting the best points, the best value that's out there. So that's the story there. Kind of give you some tips and ideas. It's something to think about, something you might want to look into. So that's the story. We'll follow it real closely. We'll give you any updates on it as the odds start to change, because you'll start to see a shift once everything kind of settles down and the NBA draft comes and goes, and those teams, those guys that left college to get into the draft and then got drafted and they're gone. Now you can start thinking about it. Make more direct decisions on it. We'll keep an eye on it for you as well. Make our thoughts and ideas and recommendations to you. And as always, we always just leave it up to you. So let's get that second break out of the way. When we come back, we're going to take a look at two baseball games on tap for tonight. We're going to see how the money line is going, how the line movement is moving, and by determining that, we can find out where the pro money is going in these games as well. So let's take that break. We'll be back right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. We're on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. We're on iHeartRadio podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts. We're there as well. So welcome to the show. And just to let you know, we totally appreciate you listening and participating in the show as well. Meanwhile, if you want to get a hold of us, it's very simple. All you have to do is send an email and send it to the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. That's the Sports Wagering Zone at gmail.com. If you have any questions, you have any comments or whatever, be happy to hear from you. We definitely respond to everybody who does get in touch with us one way or another. So we went over some futures talking about the March Madness situation and just keeping certain things in mind. Any money you lay out now is going to be laying there until the March Madness is over. It's in April. So that money's going to be laying there all that time. That's why, and you want to get in as soon as you can as far as the lines are concerned so that you can get the best line possible. So when you're sitting there and you've got Syracuse at 35-1 right now, let's just say you decide to drop some money. You don't have to bet your full amount. Like I said, if you're a $50 bettor, $100 bettor, you don't have to bet $50 or $100. You get 35-1 odds. So bet $10, $15, $20 maybe, somewhere in that area. This way, because when it comes in, you'll have a much bigger return. But understand this, if Syracuse does get into the March Madness and they're in the final game, now you got a hedge possibility because you're sitting there with the team at 35-1. Now all you have to do is take the other team that's playing them as well. And no matter who wins or who loses, you're going to be a winner. Now, you're not going to get 35-1 in that type of situation. You're going to, because you're going to have some loss. Whoever lost that game, you're going to lose the money on that particular team. So you won't make as much, but you'll still win. You can't lose that way. That's called hedging, and we'll talk about that at some point in time as well. In the meantime, let's talk about Major League Baseball. We got two games on tap for tonight. Take a close look. Let's see where the line movement is going, and let's just see where the pros are headed on these games as well. The first game is at a little after 7 o'clock. You got the New York Yankees at 500. They're 5-5 against the Toronto Blue Jays, who are 4-6. The Yankees took Monday's opener 3-1, cashing in as big, hefty 190 road favorites. We were talking about that yesterday, and if you wanted the Yankees, you had to lay that heavy wood. But in tonight's rematch, New York sends out Jameson Taillon. He has no record, 3.86 ERA. And the Jays will be going with Hyun Jin Ryu. He's 0-1 so far this season with a 2.92 ERA. So looking at the line, it opened with Toronto, a minus 120 home favorite. Now, the public is kind of split on this one. They don't know which way to go. Yet, we have seen the Jays drop slightly from being a minus 120 to a minus 115 on the money line. What this means is that some pro money is grabbing the Yankees in a rare plus money spot at plus 110, dropping it down to plus 105. That's the last we've seen. Now, New York has value. They're a dog off of a win. There's a 9% return on investment this season on these type of teams. A dog with a line movement in their favor has a 14% return on investment, and a road divisional dog with a high total. There also seems to be some liability on the higher scoring game this time as well. The total is 9. The heavy overjuice in this situation is at minus 120. Now, this game and all Jays home games are being played in their quote-unquote new home, TD Ballpark down there in Dunedin, Florida. So even though they're the Toronto Blue Jays, their home field is in Florida. It's not in Toronto. The forecast calls for temperatures in the mid-70s, a little 5 to 10 mile per hour wind, blowing out to dead center. So with the line at 9, with the juice of minus 120, and also the pros are on the New York Yankees as the dog in this game. Meanwhile, at around 10 o'clock, quarter to 10, Cincinnati Reds is against the San Francisco Giants. The Reds have really been hot. Now, they stole Monday's series opener 3-0. They were virtual pick'em in that game, and they won it easily. The pros were all over Cincinnati yesterday, dropping the Reds from a plus 115 to a minus 105, turned it completely around from being an underdog to being a favorite. Now, in tonight's rematch, the Reds send out Luis Castillo. He's 1-1 with a 6.97 ERA. Meanwhile, the Giants will come back with their ace, Kevin Gausman. No record so far this season, but with a 1.32 ERA. So as we look at the line, it opened with San Francisco, a slight home favorite, minus 115 on the money line. And right off the bat, this opening line kind of says something. Why is it so short? With the Giants at home, their ace is on the mound. They're home, their ace is on the mound. And why are they such a low favorite? So we like to look at it this way. Perhaps the pros smell a rat here. They've gotten down on Cincinnati once again, forcing the odds makers to adjust the Reds from being a plus 105 to a minus 102. The Reds have value in this game. They're a dog coming off a win and a dog with a line move in their favor. Cincinnati ranks first in batting average in the whole league. 289 is their batting average. Meanwhile, the Giants rank 26th at 204. Now, smart money also seems to be leaning on a lower scoring game this time. The total opened at 7.5, and there's heavy juice on the under at minus 120. Now, some of the shops are even down to 7. Now, the under is 8-2 in the Giants games this season. The over is 7-3 in the Reds games this season. So that game, Cincinnati against San Francisco, the pros once again are on Cincinnati. In the first game, the Yankees against the Blue Jays, in that particular game, the Yankees are the choice for the pros as far as that game is concerned. And just to kind of bring you up to date on how this little system that we've been running for you is doing so far. And again, we mention the system, we talk about it, we don't recommend it. We don't not recommend it, okay? We just give you the analytics. We let you know what's going on. Here's the story on them. We leave it up to you. Do you want to join on board and follow it for a while, or just forget about it? Maybe you want to bet against their choices if you don't want to bet with them. You may be looking at a game and you're saying, yeah, I'm looking at this Yankees Toronto game, and I just can't figure out who I want. I like the Yankees. I like Toronto in this game. Let me see who the pros like. And that may be the factor that moves you in one direction or another. Because so far this season, right now, after yesterday, we had two choices yesterday. We had San Diego against Pittsburgh, had a winner with San Diego, and the Texas Tampa game, we had Tampa. They only won 1-0, but they did win the game as well. So far this season, after 29 plays, 29, we're 17 wins and 12 losses. That's 58.6%. Remember, 52.3 is the break-even point if you're betting on the games. So just to kind of give you an idea, over the past 3 or 4 days, we've gone from being 8 wins and 10 losses all the way up to 17 and 12. We've had winning days over the past 4 days. You might want to take that into consideration and say, hey, they're too hot. They're ready to cool down now. You may be thinking about what we call gambler's fallacy. If you fall into that trap and you say, well, gee, they've already won 3 days in a row, maybe they're going to have a bad day. Yeah, maybe they might. And it's not because it's their time to have bad days, but of course they normally are in this percentage that we're talking about, anywhere from 55 to 60% as far as winning percentages go. They have to maintain those type of percentages because they make a living at it. This is where they get their money from. They pay their bills with the money that they make after they've decided on which teams to play in which game. So it's not a bad idea to kind of tag along and see how they do. You just kind of give it an idea. You listen to them, you watch it, you see, and then you make up your mind. Sometimes you can bet with them. Sometimes you can bet against them. That's totally up to you. We just give you the numbers. We leave the final decision up to you. Now, there's some NFL talk we're talking about as well, as far as some movement and talking about futures bets with quarterbacks as they've been moving up and down. We only have a couple of minutes left. We're not going to have enough time to really get into that because it's kind of complicated. I want to make sure you understand fully what we're talking about. Basically, we're talking about the quarterbacks, what has been going on, and the lines on some of these deals, and try to get an idea as to which way to go as well. So we're going to definitely get into that tomorrow. Just not enough time to do it today because we spent some time talking about the two new states that have come in, Maryland and Arizona. So let's take our final break. When we come back, we'll go over some things and then we'll say goodbye and come back again tomorrow. And one of the things we will definitely talk about tomorrow will be the futures betting as far as some of the early numbers that are coming in on some of the games. So let's take a break. And just a reminder, we'll be back into the sports wagering zone right after this. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. Appreciate you listening. Totally appreciate it. No doubt about it. Numbers been going up, and most of that is due because you guys are out there listening, talking about the show, telling your friends. And like I said, if you have any relatives or friends, if you're living in a state right now that has legalized betting, and you have some friends in Arizona, let them know, hey, right around the corner. The governor's going to be signing that bill soon. Definitely by NFL season, when the NFL season starts, you'll be able to start making wagers so they can start listening to the show, start getting some thoughts and ideas. We try to appeal to the new bettors as well. We try to give you some thoughts and ideas and some, kind of some hints, whatever you want to call it, little tips as to what's going on. Try to bring you into the fold with some, some of the words we use. Many times people send us an email saying, "What do you mean by that word? What's a reverse line movement? What's a freeze? What's this? What's that?" Well, we cover those kind of things, kind of make you sound like you know a little bit more about what's going on, put you right into the mood. So if you have friends in Arizona or Maryland, let them know any day now. The governor's going to be signing the bill. It's a done deal. Just a matter of, technically he has to take the bill and actually sign it himself. Once that's done, things will be put into motion. This way, by the time the season starts with the NFL, they'll be ready to rock and roll. They're probably hoping they get some things done before the baseball season starts, so you can start thinking about the World Series coming up too. That's another big important aspect as well. Probably going to be too late for the NBA Finals and things of that nature, but you should be ready for some baseball, and they definitely want to be ready for the NFL. You missed that NFL season, you might as well wait till next September to get things going. Just trying to get things together, trying to hash things out, get things done right. Because, there's always mistakes made in the beginning. Washington, D.C. found that out. They started too quickly. They just jumped right in. All kinds of problems, all kinds of mistakes were being made. Best thing to do, sit back, take your time, put everything together, make sure it's working, hire the right personnel to run these things, and everything will work out fine for everybody. And I'm glad to hear that these two states especially are really going on board with mobile betting, because that's very, very critical. Because, when you're sitting there, especially if you're in a cold weather state, okay, you're sitting back, you're getting ready for the NFL season. It's opening day or it's Sunday, and there's 8-9 games on tap to bet, and you're ready to bet. And all of a sudden it starts snowing or it's freezing outside. You don't want to get in your car, drive 50, maybe 100, maybe 150 miles to a brick and mortar situation to lay a bet. Yeah, all you have to do is whip out your phone, hit the numbers, and you're in business. You're sitting in your couch, nice and comfortable, watching for the game. If you want to bet within the game, you can do that as well. So I'm glad to hear that they are adopting those kind of principles. Some of the states in the beginning didn't do that, and they kind of suffered for it. I think they're going to start making changes on their own in that direction. They see the value that's involved in this. The other thing you have to look for as to whether or not you'll be able to bet for the colleges within your state. Will Arizona allow you to bet on Arizona State or on Arizona or any team that's located in Arizona? Not the pro teams. We're talking about the college teams, okay? That's a very important thing. For instance, New Jersey, which is well known for gambling, going all the way back even before it was legalized. But you can't bet on any college teams that are in the state of New Jersey. If you want to bet on Rutgers, which is in New Jersey, you got to go to Pennsylvania or to New York or Delaware, wherever, someplace else that will allow you to bet if you're that hungry to bet on the team in your state. So those are the things you have to look out for, but we'll keep you up to date on that as well. Once again, going over the two games for tonight at 7 o'clock, the Yankees against Toronto. The Yankees are the choice of the pros, and Cincinnati against San Francisco. In that particular game, the pros are on the Cincinnati Reds as well. So that's the story as far as that goes. We did a lot of talking today, got a lot out of the way. We covered some futures talk about March Madness coming up. We were hoping to get some futures talk about the NFL, just not enough time. We could actually stay on for another 20 minutes if we want to, but, generally speaking, we try to keep the show around 40, 42, 43 minutes. So this way, kind of keeps everything together that way. Most people appreciate a smaller time than a longer time. Okay. So thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. We're here every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. We're also here on Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a very, very pleasant and eventful Tuesday. And if you're betting, I also hope you have a profitable Tuesday as well. Once again, the two picks, the Yankees against the Blue Jays and the Reds against the team they're playing, therefore the Reds against the Giants in that game. So that's up to you to choose. It's up to you. That's what it's there for. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow at 4 p.m. right here, live from Charlotte on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Until tomorrow, have a very pleasant and profitable day. Goodbye, everybody.